Hello? Yes, this is she. Accident meaning?
समुंदर जाएंगे और ये कुश्तियाँ वहाँ
यहाँ
अंजू यहीं पैदा हुई थी।
तो क्या हुआ? थी तो हिंदुस्तानी ना.
This is our way of taking responsibility.
Your blood money is not going to bring our daughter back. अंजू के खून से अपना बिजनेस शुरू कर रही हो?
यही चाहिए था ना तुम्हें बच्चों के लिए।
बच्ची एक ही है.
What happened was not your fault.
What if I told you it was?
هن عايشين ببلد ما حدا شايفهم فيه، شفافين.
حبيبتي اطمني، الام ابدا ما لها شفافه.
She was breathing. She was breathing. My bacha was alive.
Madam, stop that!
What does it say?
It says you have blood on your hands.
बेटा रवीना बेटा दरवाजा खोलो.
मैं और रिस्क नहीं ले सकता। तुम जा रही हो।
उसे बालों में सिर को हल्के से झटका दिया मैंने अलविदा.
जानना चाहती हूँ कि हमारी बच्ची के साथ हुआ क्या था.
कहा अलविदा.
In this special interview, let us uncover the stories behind groundbreaking films and the creative minds that bring them to life. Yellow Bus is the part of the lineup of films at the 24th Annual New York Indian Film Festival, held from May 31st to June 2nd, 2024 at Village East by Angelica, New York, New York. I'm honored to be joined today by Wendy Bednarz, the director of the captivating film Yellow Bus. Set against the backdrop of the Arabian Gulf, this film explores themes of resilience, justice, and societal norms through a compelling narrative and an international cast. We're excited to be talking to you today, Wendy. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Pleasure. So, Yellow Bus is a powerful story that addresses societal issues and challenges norms. What inspired you to tell this particular story, especially with its focus on the concept of caste and accountability?
Well, I've lived here in the Gulf for almost 10 years, and so I've been a part of the fabric. And I originally read a story about a child who was left behind on a school bus. And then I started reading about other children that were left behind, and as a parent on vehicles. And as a parent, I couldn't imagine anything worse than losing my child to such a tragic incident. I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I put myself in the shoes of the bus driver, the bus attendant, and realized that everybody makes mistakes, but these are what tragic consequences. So the seed was planted. I have 2 children of my own, and the seed was planted, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. I knew I had to make the film.
Wonderful. The film features an international cast and is shot in 5 different languages. How did you navigate the complexities of multilingual storytelling, and what impact did this choice have on the film's narrative?
Well, I was naive, actually. I wrote the screenplay in English, and I thought it would easily translate to these different languages. Of course, it's very multicultural where I live in, here in Abu Dhabi. And so I thought it would easily translate, but I learned that the translation had to go through different iterations and truly was a collaborative effort with translators, but also with the cast who I worked very closely with. And even when we were on set, I would always have someone who was standing by, who knew the language that the scene was in. And in some ways it was very freeing, to be honest with you, because when you're not caught up following the dialogue word for word, you really are in tune to the body language and the performances. And so in some ways, I think it actually was was very helpful from a directing point of view.
Share some of your experiences collaborating with producers from Jordan and India, as well as renowned talents such as Tanishta Chatterjee and Guneet Monga.
Well, they're all incredible women. I mean, and this was part of the joy of making this film, was that really strong women who came on board, believed in the project. Tanishta, it was an extraordinary collaboration. She, from the very beginning, really just threw herself into the role. And we had many discussions about every single scene in the film before we even began shooting. But for me, it just, all of these collaborations, Guneet, and Nadia Liwa, who's from Jordan, all of these collaborations were a gift because I had all the support I needed in order to realize my vision.
Have you previously also worked with big actors or big producers, and was it easy to approach Tanishta and Guneet?
No, I haven't. So it was the first time for me, the first time of many things. And it all began with the screenplay and with Nadia, my producer, who really fell in love with the story. And together we approached Guneet, and Guneet fell in love with the story, and the same with Tanishta, really came to the story. And then the conversations that we were having to make sure that we were all on the same page. We all wanted to make a film that was powerful, that was authentic, that was truthful, that told a mother's story. And so we all aligned, and the collaborations just naturally happened.
Okay. So in Abu Dhabi also, I assume the school bus is a yellow bus.
I'm sorry, come again?
In Abu Dhabi, where this film is shot.
Yes.
So the school buses are yellow buses here also?
Yes, there are yellow buses here.
Okay.
I realize that they're not yellow buses everywhere in the world, but it is one pretty international symbol.
Yes, in US also, and you know, we are very particular that the yellow bus, you know, everybody stops at the red light, all the traffic. So is it any different? Like, it is very difficult for me to even, you know, come to think like a child can be left behind and something tragic can unfold for this child. So are they not particular or careful with the children in the yellow bus back in your home country?
I will tell you now, it's very, very, very careful. There are cameras on buses now. There are signs when the bus is empty. I don't see the stop signs that we have in the US, that you don't pass the bus if a child is alighting. But there are regulations in place, and it just happens. It happened elsewhere in the Gulf recently, about 2 weeks ago. A similar story, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the child, the parents, who, you know, I'm sure in some ways blame themselves. I know I would as a parent, and the people who are involved in it. It's a tragedy for everyone.
As a filmmaker with a background in fashion and a penchant for a multicultural narratives, how did your diverse experiences influence your approach to directing Yellow Bus?
Well, I've been living overseas, first in Singapore for a number of years, and then here in Abu Dhabi. And my students, I'm a professor at New York University, Abu Dhabi. And my students make films all over the world, China, Brazil, every country that you can imagine. So I've always been dealing with multicultural narratives. It feels very natural to me.
Okay, let's talk about the cinematography in Yellow Bus. It's visually very striking. Even your poster, it really spoke to me, and it builds all the suspense, you know. So how did you work with the cinematographer, Sofian El Fani, to capture the essence of the Arabian Gulf and convey the emotional depth of the story?
I think, again, it comes back to the screenplay. And Sofian and I just started conversations early on in the process where I talked about really the tensions that are here in this part of the world, the visuals, the contradictions. We looked at films together, we looked at paintings, And then Sufjan is a master, you know, it was then his interpretation that took the visual language to the next level. And a lot of what he does handheld work beautifully. So as the scenes are being shot, sometimes things happen spontaneously, and he is very sensitive to performances and able to adapt very quickly and move the camera in the right place at the right time.
The film has garnered acclaim and won awards at various international film festivals. What has been the most rewarding aspect of this journey for you as a director?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I think sharing it with audiences is always the most satisfying. The questions that people ask, when I see somebody is moved by it, that in some way it's touched their heart or made them think about something that is important to them. The conversations that I have with audience members, that is by far the most satisfying.
Talk about some of the challenges during making of this film.
Yeah, every day. There aren't that many films made like this in this part of the world. There's a lot of Hollywood, Bollywood films that come to the Gulf to make films, but not character-driven stories. So from the beginning, getting the permits to shoot, the approval to shoot, we were on a tight budget, and we had, I think, over 40 locations. Wow. So we wanted a strong production value, which I think we really achieved. But every location, everything, we had to fight for it together. It made us stronger and more determined, you know.
Wonderful. Yellow Bus tackles sensitive and thought-provoking themes. How do you hope audiences will engage with and respond to the film's message?
Well, it's a story of grief. And so I hope in some way, I find the films that I find the most powerful or the ones that last with me are cathartic, that in some way they tap into some of my own life experience. There's something universal about it. The film also deals with themes of blame. Everybody is blaming each other, and ultimately everyone in some way holds a little piece of the responsibility. So I hope that it's a story that touches on humans.
Talk about some memorable moments or challenges, more challenges, like let's say in the post-production or while you wanted to release the film. Right now it's doing the festival rounds, but how did all of this come about?
How did the festivals come about, or
when you want to release the film eventually, right, on the big screen, but before this you are taking the festival route. Talk about some memorable moments and the festival route you've taken for Yellow Bus.
I can talk about release as well. We just opened in Saudi in 20 theaters last week.
Wonderful.
And we'll be opening here in the UAE, inshallah. OSN, which is a platform here in this part of the world, is going to be streaming Yellow Bus. So it has a continued life, and is still going to festivals as well.
Wonderful. And people are watching it, like people you don't know. Are you getting, some feedback, some, their own personal stories regarding Yellow Bus? Or maybe you would want to make a sequel to this or turn it into series. Any big plans?
I do. I get emails from people who have seen it, really touching emails. And I think that it really hits home for a lot of people in different ways, even though it's a difficult subject. I am not planning a sequel. I'm working on a project that is set partially in the U.S., in Oregon, where I grew up, and partially in Nigeria, where I've spent some time as well.
Wow. You've traveled so much.
Well, I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite things in life.
Wonderful. So your career spans across various mediums, including film, photography, and video installations. How do you navigate between these different forms of storytelling, and what draws you to each medium?
It's regardless whether it's photography or film or video, it's an expression. It's a need to say something about the world that I find urgent. And then it's a release, an ability to be able to say it and to be able to share it with people. So there's this commonality through all of it. And I just love visual language. I find visual language so powerful, especially in our world where we're so divided and words cause wars and other terrible things. Visual language has the power to bring people together. Very drawn to it for that reason.
Lastly, what's next for you as a filmmaker? Are there any upcoming projects or stories you're excited to explore?
Well, I'm working on two, and one of them that I'm hoping will go next is called Yahoo Boy, and this is the one that's set in Nigeria in the U.S. It's a comedy drama, so it's a little different from Yellow Bus. It's a little bit of a reprieve from the intensity. But I'm quite excited, and it has another female, very strong protagonist.
Wonderful. Wendy, we look forward to witnessing Yellow Bus at New York Indian Film Festival on Saturday, June 1st at 3:30 p.m. and cannot wait for the impact it will undoubtedly have on the world of cinema. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Pleasure.